Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. So, who is from Hindu College here? Who is going to host the show? Okay, sure.
Sir, I'm Bhumika.
And
Hello.
sir, I'm Muskan.
Hi, Muskan.
Welcome, sir.
Thank you, and congratulations for you guys. You are doing wonderful. I have been following you in Instagram, and you are doing a good job actually.
Thank you,
Very
Thank
nice,
you,
and
sir.
conducting it for 4 days is a big deal actually. Good job. Congrats to you all.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot, sir.
Sure. And when questions comes through chat box, you guys will sort it out and give it to me, or I have to see.
No, sir, we will sort it out and we will convey it to them.
We will convey it to you, sir.
Yeah.
Okay, sure.
Be the change that you wish to see in the world. With this, a very heartfelt good afternoon to all the dignitaries and all my fellow mates present here. Today, I am Muskan and my co-host Bhumika, on the behalf of whole team Bunyad, the Civil Service Society of Hindu College, welcome you all to this exhilarating event of our society, Mridang. It's the third edition of our annual event, Mridang. Every year, we have different dignitaries with us who guide and inspire us for this journey. And it's give me a great pleasure to introduce IFS officer, Mr. Vijayanantham TR, who is here to motivate and share with us the ins and outs of this challenging journey. So I would like to begin the event by quoting a few lines. मृदंग ताल उठी सास्वर डम 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 डमरू की ध्वनि हर उल्लास हरि उमंग खिली प्रातः और खिले सुमन. And once again, I welcome you all to Mridang 2021. Thank you, and over to you, Bhumika.
Thank you, Muskan. Today, we are extremely privileged to introduce our speaker of the day, 2018 Madhya Pradesh cadre IFS officer, Mr. Vijayanandam TR. He is the living proof that the only distance between you and everything you want is the amount of action that you take. Born and brought up in Namakkal district in Tamil Nadu, Sir completed his computer science engineering from Anna University, Chennai, and later he worked as a software developer for around 1.5 years. But Sir turned up his roots after realizing the source of real happiness that comes from serving the people. Due to immense interest and awareness about ecological conservation and tribal development, Sir decided to Indian Forest Service examination conducted by UPSC in the year 2017, and he successfully cleared it with AIR 50. He is indeed an inspiration for all the young aspirers. Now, I would like to request Sir to share his experiences with us. Meanwhile, I will also request all the participants to kindly mute their mic in order to maintain the decorum of the session. Also, they can drop their queries in the chat box. We will try our best to convey as many questions as we can. Thank you, sir, and welcome, sir.
Thank you, Bhumika, and thank you, Muskan, and thank you for the entire team of Bunyad for inviting me. So I would like to start this interaction with a formal introduction about me and about IFS, and then we will go into the questions. So first, I am from Tamil Nadu. as like already Bhumika told, I have completed my BE Computer Science Engineering from Anna University, Chennai. And then I got campus placement and went into software developer as a 1.5 years. And then I quit my job. So currently I am posted as a range officer. I am still under training only, on job training in East Mona division, Madhya Pradesh. And you all know this division in the name of Kanha National Park. So Kanha National Park falls in this division. So this entire area is known for tigers and wildlife. And I cleared UPSC in my third attempt, and but I got to know about IFS only in my second attempt. So it means I was not aware about IFS first of all. First of all, you have to know about each and every service. You should not fall for the what newspaper says or what others are doing. You should know about what is each and every service. What is about IAS? What are their duties? What is IFS? What are their duties? What is foreign service? What are their duties? What is police service? What is IRTS? Because there are so many good services. Just because we are not aware of them, we go on and writing for 7 years, 8 years, and wasting our time, precious energy in our youth, which we can spend for the society. So first of all, get to know about the service and go for it. And I think Bunyad has invited me especially for the prelims because I have scored consistently. I cleared consistently in all the prelims examination, and my highest score in prelims was 142 in my second attempt. So my score in prelims was 1117, 142, and 127. So I'm good at prelims, and I think that's why they have invited me for this show. Now coming to IFS, Indian Forest Service is an all India service like Indian Administrative Service and Indian Police Service. And the pillars of the district are district collector, SP, the DFO, and district judge. So DM is from IAS, SP is from IPS, DFO is from IFS, and district judge you all know. So these four people are the pillars of the district, and they are responsible for the management, law and order of the revenue area and the forest area in the district. So the main difference lies here is IAS and IPS concentrate on law and order development in the revenue land. IFS concentrates on law and order development and conservation in the forest land. So every district has forest land, whether we know or not. There is a forest land in every district and every city which is managed by the IFS officer, that is the DFO. Now, coming to the exam, IFS exam is same like IAS in prelims, but they diverse at the mains examination. So mains we have separate examination for IFS, but interview is same like IAS. Same panel for IAS IPS sits for the IFS interview also. So the main difference lies in mains. And main issue in IFS is clearing with high cutoff. So every year IFS cutoff is at least 10 to 15 marks more than civil service examination in prelims. So it is little difficult to clear IFS cutoff every year. So for clearing that, you have to know the nuances and also the tricks and also the trend of UPSC, what kind of questions they ask. Coming to the training part, foundational course for IFS is with other All India services and central services at Labasna for 3 months. After that, you will be moved to Indira Gandhi National Forest Academy, the beautiful FRA campus in Dehradun. There we undergo 16 months of training. This training includes 5 to 6 All India tours, including West India tour, South India tour, Central India tour, East India tour, and Hill tour. Other than that, we have numerous attachments like horse riding, swimming, etc., and also rifle shooting at Indian Military Academy. After that, we also have foreign tours like Russia, Estonia, Finland, and other group went to Spain and Italy. So I can say Indian Forest Service is having the most beautiful training among all the services in India. So now, thank you for giving me this opportunity to explain to the service and also about me. And I will give the floor to Bhumika or Muskan to ask me the questions.
Thank you, sir. It was really delightful to hear such a prosperous experience of yours. So, sir, I'd like to begin with the question session. The very first question that came in the mind of all aspirers are that before any preparation and any strategy comes the mindset. So, sir, what kind of mindset one should develop in order to start the preparation?
Yeah, Bhumika. See, nowadays the competition is very high for any exam, not only for UPSC, but for any of these exams like state PSC, etc. So the mindset should be, you should focus on only one exam at least for 2 years. Don't go for 2 exam, 3 exam, and apply for all the exams and sit for every exam that is being conducted in your state or central. So at least dedicate 2 years of life for that one exam. You will definitely succeed. When it comes to mindset, you should have consistency, hard work, smart work, passions. Passions is very much important because if you fail in your first attempt, you have to come all the over to the prelims and start from the beginning. So patience is very much important. Above all, self-motivation. Many aspirants, you all know that I have been guiding aspirants since I cleared the examination. Many aspirants used to ask me that, sir, how can I motivate myself? See, you can't motivate yourself by watching the lecture of any topper or just following them in Instagram or Twitter. No, you have to be self-motivated. Self-motivated means you have to see your life for next 30 years. Okay, this is going to be my job for next 30 years. Next 30 years, my everyday life should be like this. So you should be self-motivate yourself. You have to see yourself what I will be next 30 years. So any video or any posters, nothing will motivate you. They will stay with you for only just 5 to 6 minutes. After that, the remaining 23 hours is with you, and you have to self-motivate yourself. And above all, enjoy the process, because don't see this as just an exam. It is an enlightenment. We studied history, geography in schools when we were not at all mature. But now we are mature enough at 21, 22, we are giving this examination and preparing for geography, history. It's mesmerizing to know about our culture, to know about our history, to know about our geography. So at least initial 1.5 years, you should enjoy the process, enjoy reading, and you dive in the book and enjoy it. Don't try to mug up it and learn. Just enjoy the process. And your mindset should be like, I should enjoy this process. At the same time, I will take all the moves to clear this examination. That's it.
Okay, sir. Our next question is, with such an extended syllabus of prelims, how could anyone decode it properly? What is the best way as according to you, sir?
See, the best way is the UPSC already has given you, that is previous year question paper and the syllabus. Even I did the same mistake of just enrolling in an academy and go on the freaky buying of books, history some 5 to 10 books, geography some 5 to 10 books. No, it's not a right way. First, sit with the syllabus, take previous year question paper, look what they have asked, and go according to it. Once you started preparing, buy just 2 books for history, 2 books for geography, like that. Don't go on buying the books. That won't work. So first you have to see the syllabus, mug up the syllabus, see the previous year question paper, and take the guidance of any coaching or like any of your seniors who have cleared, or any of your friends who have already cleared or doing the preparation, and get to know what are the books are very much important and buy them. Once you started preparing, give some 2 to 3 months for setting into the trend of the books, then started giving test series, because the test series will show you that whether you are in the right track or not. So once you started scoring in the test series, that will show that whether you have decoded the examination or not.
Okay, sir. Due to highly unpredictable nature of prelims, students always feel a sign of confusion in deciding the right proportion between static and current affairs. Sir, what is your take on this?
See, it's true that UPSC is unpredictable, but there is only 2 things called static and current affairs, nothing other than that, as you all know. And since 2015, static was very high in UPSC. And from 2015 to current trend, current affairs is also high. But suddenly in the last year, and coming to 2020 examination, the static and current affairs are in equal proportion. So you can't predict UPSC, but you can be prepared for everything. So give equal focus for both current affairs and also for static portion. So always give 50-50 percentage. Even if static current affairs portion did not comes in prelims, it will help you in framing your answer in mains and also interview. Because if a person is good in current affairs, he can give good analytical answer, which is not possible for a person who's solely dependent on the books in terms of static portion. So give equal weightage to both. Anyway, it will help you either in mains or at least in prelims. So it will be helpful to you.
Sir, as you are combining the prelims and mains, I want to ask that Is there any difference in the way if we are reading the same topic for prelims and mains?
Definitely. There is no difference in book or syllabus. There is only different in methodology of reading. For example, listen this sentence. A state of emergency can be declared in any state under Article 356 on the recommendation of Governor of the state. So, when you read this sentence, in terms of prelims, your eyes should go on emergency, Article 356, recommended by Governor of the state. So, when coming to prelims, they will play with the words. Words means where you fail to see, where as a as a new aspirant you fail to see the importance of the words. For example, here Article 356 is important, recommendation, the word recommendation is important, and governor of the state is important, and emergency is important. But so this kind of focusing on the word is important when it comes to prelims, but when it comes to mains you have to think why emergency is needed, why governor has been given such power. Is it against federalism? At this situation, at what situation emergency can be given? Any example so far in India? So when it comes to prelims, you focus on the points, you focus on the words, but when it comes to mains, you focus on the analysis. You have to ask the questions to yourself, why? That is the methodology of reading prelims and mains. See, it's the same word, same sentence, but the methodology of reading is different for prelims and mains.
Thank you, sir. It was really insightful. I want to ask that as the syllabus is so much extended, does we need to cover each and every subject mentioned in the prelim syllabus, or we can just skip some topics in prelims as prelims marks do count as the final merit outs?
Actually, as you already said, UPSC is unpredictable. You don't have any opportunity, or like you don't have any possibility to skip any portion in the syllabus. Okay, so for those aspirants who could not find time, those who started this year only and they say they don't find time, at least know the meaning of each and every word in the syllabus. Because for example, when I attended the 2017 mains examination of IFS, they just asked what is kind of question in 3 to 4 papers in IFS examination. Just directly they took from the syllabus. So people who directly went to books without seeing the syllabus missed those questions, and they could not crack the simple question of the why, what is. They just start, it's kind of example like what is geology. You can't write if you don't know the meaning of geology. So even if you can't read the full book regarding socialism, at least get to know what is socialism. That will help you in mains, at least to write about something.
Okay, thank you, sir. Now I want to ask how to eliminate incorrect options in the exam, as it is MCQ type and there we have a certain time limit to solve the question. So our smart work actually works there. It will be very insightful if you could guide our aspirants for the same.
See, I have told that I have cleared a prelims with 142 marks. So it does not mean that I know 75 questions in prelims. I didn't know 75 questions. I surely know that 60 to 65 I will get correct. But remaining 10 to 15 questions, I went for tricks. The tricks means it does not mean that any like the wild guesses and faded memory, like I have read it somewhere. That and all won't work in UPSC. Don't ever go by the methodology like I have read it somewhere, just and then you go for A, B, or C. No, it won't work. So UPSC is a examination. It's a technical examination, is an analytical examination. So just don't go for wild guesses or don't take any answer based on your faded memory. Okay, so here I am going to give you one trick that is called a test series. I have scored 142, 117, 127 because before my first attempt, I have attended at least 50 to 60 full test series for prelims. And I have attended all the previous year questions from 1995 to 2017 of UPSC, including UPSC examination, CDS examination, and NDA examination. So, because of giving so many test series and also did so many questions of previous year questions of UPSC, I know the trend of UPSC. The trend of UPSC means I know where they will make a check for you. For example, the trick number 1 is you have to watch out for the words all, any, none, not, but UPSC always keep checking that. So if you know the trend of UPSC, by just reading the question, your eyes will directly go to the word, not but any, none, anyone like that. So by that itself, you are 50% successful. That you have caught where they kept the trap. You got to know the trap where the UPSC has led the trap. So 50% is over in that itself. Remaining 50% is just to eliminate. Secondly, intelligent guesses. Intelligent guesses mean not about wild guesses or like faded memory. Intelligent guesses means, for example, UPSC at many times used to ask questions that is not from any book, but it's of general knowledge. For example, once they asked a question about OLED. So in that OLED, the option was the OLED has following properties. First, one can bend the OLED. Second, one can roll the OLED. And OLED is a system which can be set up in TVs, etc. Fourth option is ABCD, all of the above. So I don't know about OLED. So first option is one can bend the OLED. Second option is one can fold. So if one can bend something, they can definitely fold also. It's not a big deal. Third is everyone know LED means TV. So okay. So all of the above, that's it. So here, even without knowing what is OLED, you just going for analytical thinking and linking the options, you can you can go for the right answer. And generally, especially in science and technology papers, they used to play with you. For example, they will just give any new technology, but in that they will place some fundamental technology like nuclear technology, etc., on their properties and put the choices as the properties of the technology. Now, if you know what is nuclear technology, you can easily answer the question. You no need to know about that new innovation at all. You just need to know about fundamental idea about fission and fusion. You can answer that question. You no need to know about the new technology. Likewise, you can do a lot of guesses. I have written how can one go for tricks and guesses in my website, vijayinjananam.com. You just go through it. I have listed out some 11 tricks on how to eliminate these kind of options. And please don't go for probability. Probability does not work in UPSC. Okay. Many people think like 1/3 probability is there, 1/2 probability is there. No, it won't work in UPSC. So always go by your analytical reasoning, what you have read, and don't go for probability. Don't write answer on your faded memory. Yeah, next question.
Thank you, sir. That's a very smart piece of advice from your side. Now, since most of the students who are appearing from the exam have non-science background, they always have a dilemma about CSET preparation. So, can you give them any advice that they could follow in order to crack CSET?
See, you no need to fear about CSAT at all. First of all, CSAT is full of English, maths, and analytical reasoning. Above all, you just need to pass the examination. You just need to score 67.5 marks. That's it. So, I have seen many people who didn't succeed in CSAT doing a common mistake called going from 1 to 100, 1 to 80, attending questions from 1 to 80. You don't do it at all. Just go through the paper, select the easiest questions and attend that question, you will clear the examination. Many will start from 1, 2, 3 and they will waste their time in attending the difficult CSAT question while the easy questions are at the middle or at the back. So you just go through the question paper and pick those easy questions and attend that first. But by that itself, you will easily pass the examination. Second, when it comes to maths, as I already said, you just need to pass. You no need to read everything. Just to see the previous question paper of past 10 years of CSAT. Take which are the repeated question: train, river and boat, and dice, syllogism, chart, pie chart. So they themselves are giving that you read this only, and we go on reading everything in indiabix.com and or everything in some quantitative aptitude books. That is not the right way. Take some 10 to 12 topics of maths, be an expert in that. Take to 10 topics of syllogism, be an expert in that. Take to 10 topics of analytical reasoning like dice and probability using ball, red ball, white ball kind of questions. Be expert in that. Just spend 2 months every day, 2 hours. You can easily pass this examination. And once you are expert in these topics now, you can just go to the examination, see the paper where the topics you have read has come. Just pick those questions, attend those questions, and sit peacefully in the CSAT examination. And above all, if you are reading the Hindu daily, and you can easily clear the English comprehensions in the CSAT paper. So if you follow this strategy, you can finish the CSAT paper within 1.5 hours. You don't even need 2 hours because you just need to pass.
Thank you, sir. That was really a good piece of advice for all the non-science background students. Since, as you said, current affairs also play a very important role in the pre-examination. So, what basic strategy we need to follow in order to prepare best for the current affairs section?
See, many aspirants have been asking me, sir, whether I should read the newspaper or not. No, you should read the newspaper. No amount of any monthly magazine or compilation won't help you. Because why? Static books. Somebody have written the book, so somebody have given you the answer, so you are mug upping that answer. Compilation. Somebody have read newspaper, somebody made the compilation, and you are just mug upping. So if you are keep on reading the somebody's answer or somebody's book, how you can develop your own analytical thinking, which is tested in the interview. In interview, you cannot recall an answer which is in some book or in a monthly compilation. In interview, they test your analytical skill and they want your opinion and they want your answer, which you can get only through reading newspaper. So when coming to reading newspaper, at least in initial 4 to 5 months, it is very difficult for those people who are not good at English, and also when it comes to the Hindu English, everybody is not good at it. So it will take at least 4 to 5 hours in initial 4 or 5 months to read the Hindu daily. But once you cross that saturation phase, after 3-4 months, you can easily read the Hindu within 2 hours. And even while reading the Hindu also, you no need to read everything. For example, UPSC don't ask much questions on sports, so you leave the sports page, and you can easily leave the columns like culture and all, etc. And you can leave those editorial pages that repeatedly asking speaking about the same kind of topic like nationalism, COVID. For example, past 6 months editorial is all about COVID. You don't need to know read every editorial. And when it comes, you have to keep your syllabus nearby. For example, you no need to, when it comes to syllabus, if you are be thorough with the syllabus, you don't want to read about any political parties. You just need to read about polity, not political parties. So when it comes to president news or like prime minister news or any news about Rajya Sabha, Lok Sabha, you can read it and relate it with your polity. So by that way, you have to get a hold on your newspaper. Once you get a hold on your newspaper, and you should make notes out of it. Once you started making notes, use your monthly compilation just to compare that whether you have read every part of the newspaper or not. So if monthly compilation has something which you had left out in newspaper, just go through it and add it in your online notes of newspaper and revise it at the end of the examination, and definitely you will clear prelims easily. Because since you have read yourself the newspaper, no amount of UPSC analytical answer is a threat to you. You can easily think and write your answer.
Sir, it's totally relatable. Thank you, sir, because most of the our aspirants are just begun the newspaper reading, and it's totally relatable for all of us. Sir, as you talked about the magazine, which magazine you prefer most? As during your preparation days, which magazine you followed?
See, I have followed the Hindu first of all because I was very bad at English at the time. So I want to improve my vocabulary, and also I wanted to know what is happening around me. Because as a common citizen, we just watch news and read some local newspaper. But when it comes to UPSC, you are not a common citizen. You should be like a global citizen. You will have to know about everything. You should know at least something about everything. So first of all, you have to read the newspaper for it. Then I went for the Hindu newspaper. Then when it comes to monthly magazine, I just used monthly magazine to check whether I have read everything that is important for the syllabus or not. At most of the time, I have read and took note of even more in-depth note of the magazine that I have read because of my newspaper reading. So no amount of prelims question was a threat to me, and that's why I have scored very well in prelims. When it comes to monthly magazine, I followed Preparation IAS magazine because it's followed by most of the UPSC aspirant, and it is they are doing it for so many years. So I just used them to compare my answers, but I didn't solely depend upon any magazine.
Okay, thank you, sir. It will indeed help all the young aspirers here. Now, I want to ask, as you yourself have worked around 1.5 years as a software engineer, so what is your strategy to tackle with job and your preparation at the same time?
Yes, I have worked as a software engineer for 1.5 years, but I didn't quit abruptly because before testing the waters, you should not enter into the river. Okay, so you have to test whether you are able to, because everyone is able. I'm okay with it, but you have to test whether what how long it will take. At least you have to know your capability and how long it will take to clear the examination. So I thought like, and you have to be financially strong also because it will take at least 2 years to clear this examination. So the people like me who are from middle class family need to support ourselves during the 2 years of preparation. We can't solely depend on our parents for fees, test series, food, and also we want to go to movies with friends. So you should have some money in your hand also. So I thought like, I should go for job. So the strategy I followed before quitting is I enrolled in a weekend coaching classes. So how long it will take for my character and my attitude, and then I quit the job. I didn't quit my job abruptly.
Sir, it is really delightful to hear all your prosperous experiences. As sir, you yourself an IFS officer, you are aware that sometimes we undermine IFS in front of other civil services. So, sir, why do you think that why IFS comparatively less popular than other services, other civil services?
See, 90% of the people in India haven't met a collector in person most of the time. 80 to 90% of people, they just saw the news about collector SP in newspapers, media, and also Republic Day functions. Are we doing the right thing by just following the newspaper and media and go for writing an examination and fixing our career without knowing what the other services also offers you? That is a mistake I also did. I want to roam a lot. I want to meet a lot of people. IFS gives a lot of opportunity. I am an adventure kind of person. IFS gives me a lot of opportunity. So I thought like IFS is also a best suited job for me. So in my third attempt, I gave IFS as my second preference, and thus I went for IFS once I got the IFS examination. So just because the newspaper or media does not cover about one service, it does not mean that it's a secondary service. So you have to get aware about each and every service and give this examination. Okay, and if you comes to media also, even nowadays many of the IFS officers are like getting good media limelight because of social media like Instagram and Facebook, Twitter. Especially everyone knows nowadays Parveen Kaswan sir, etc. He is having huge number of followers. So that is also now reducing, and IFS also officers also getting good media limelight, and which is visible in number of aspirants giving IFS exam these days is increasing exponentially every year.
Very insightful to hear from you the IFS service that most of the students, as we can say, till were not aware. So it will be very insightful if you could make me aware about the scope of this service so that we can introspect us before giving the examination.
Sure. First of all, I request you people to go through my Instagram post where I'm posting day to day about what the work of IFS officers is be like. Because no media will come and cover the works of IFS officer in forest, for the works we do for tribals, and also the work we do for wildlife, environment, pollution control, etc. So I thought like I should post everything about the works of IFS officers, and I'm doing it regularly through my Instagram post and also Twitter post. So when it comes to IFS and its scope, it is called as service of the future. IFS is more of a field job than a desk job. You will have less number of meetings and more number of field visits when it comes to IFS. So many have doubts that For IFS means only we work in forest, only it's plantation. No. Now I want to list out some of the work of IFS officer. First of all, we have four kind of duties. One is conservation function, establishment function, and a development function. When it comes to conservation function, we go for protection of forest and wildlife as per all the environmental acts. We follow all environmental acts, like Wildlife Protection Act and Environmental Act of 1986, etc. So we follow those acts for conservation of nature. Secondly, establishment function. We have 700 to 800 permanent staffs and 1,000 and above 1,000 contractual staffs and laborers. So all these laborers and staffs are dependent on the DFO for any orders under the work he gives. So we have a huge responsibility of giving livelihood to the people who are dependent on the forest. Third comes to development function. For example, we open self-help groups for tribal communities. We will give employment opportunity for tribal communities. We market their products. We give road facilities for the tribal communities, water facilities. We established some facilities like Bandhan Kendra, and we merge them with the Biodiversity Act and get royalty for them for the medical plants that are used by big companies from the tribal people. So we focus morely on the poor and underdeveloped people like tribal people, and we will hold them to come into the fold of mainstream. And above all, ecotourism, as everyone knows, Kanha National Park, Bandhavgarh National Park, Kaziranga National Park, everything is headed by IFS officers, Corbett National Park, etc. So after this stage, after initial 10 years of DFO-ship, you will little move to upwards in the ladder of your career. At that level, you will go for policy making and representation of India in meetings like UNFCCC, UNDP, UNEP, etc. Heading of institutions like IGNFA, FRA, ICFRE, TNAU, etc. And when you go for central deputation, you will go for joint secretary, additional secretary post. And when you go for central deputation, there is no restriction that you will be serving in the forest department only. You will be going for agriculture department, irrigation department, whichever department that is related more with rural India and more with the people, you will be posted there as additional secretaries, etc. Once you are retired, you have opportunities like NGT judge, environmental consultant, expert in climate change, global warming, tribal welfare, etc. So our works are very diverse, but and another thing is also the people below us, like up to the ranger level, are uniformed staffs. So you are involved in crime detection also, like wildlife poaching, timber mafia, so soil, sand mafia, etc. Disaster management in forest and tribal area, and implementation of international projects like JICA projects and wetland conservation. So there are so many things, and which won't be covered in media because those are in remote places. Those are all indirectly affects the people. Giving rice or some cloth to a person through PDF shop means he's benefiting directly. So you can see that benefit. But protecting nature, disaster management, and protecting environment, soil, water, those are all indirect benefits that can't be perceived by a common man. That's why IFS is getting less limelight compared to other services, because we focus more on long-term and indirect benefits. So these are the scope of IFS.
Thank you, sir. It is a really adventurous job, I can say. And sir, now I want to ask you that as we have talked a bit about the unpredictable nature of prelims, since if we can compare with the 2020 prelims exam, that there were many questions from the agriculture and science and technology part. So how can we deal with this unpredictability? Is there an perfect best way to deal with it? How can we mentally prepare ourselves?
See, as I already said, you cannot go behind UPSC and change your tactics every year, because this year they asked so much about agriculture. Next year they may ask so much about medieval India. The next year they will ask so much about culture. Whether you can buy every year 10 to 12 books for each and every subject, no, you can't do it. See, everyone is seeing that this year UPSC asked 18 questions or 15 questions from agriculture, but what they didn't see is they asked remaining 75 questions from the normal static and current affairs portion. If you are good at those static and current affairs portion, you no need to worry about the just unpredictability of UPSC in just 10 to 15 questions every year. So just because UPSC asked some 10 to 12 questions about agriculture this year, just don't go and buy some 10 books for agriculture next year. Definitely they won't be coming next year. Okay, so write more test areas, follow the static portion well, follow the static books well, revise again and again, read your own newspaper, read your newspaper on your own, revise it again and again, write more and more test series. Whatever questions they ask, you can score. Leave those 10 to 12 difficult questions. It will be always there every year, and don't worry about it.
Thank you, sir. Your words will surely act as a guiding light for all the young aspirers. Now, since most of us who are connected through this platform are first year students, and all we have the eagerness to know how can we devote ourselves from the first year towards the civil services preparation.
See, when it comes to the first year, I will ask you to read NCERT first of all, because NCERT is your fundamental. Many a times UPSC asks 15 to 20 questions on basic fundamentals, but we fail to answer those questions just because we didn't cover the NCERT books. So just Google it and see whichever the NCERT is best is necessary for UPSC. For example, from 6th to 12th exam, there are 12th standard, there are so many NCERTs, but you can't go and read all those NCERTs. So I have listed out whichever the NCERT is important for prelims, and so many toppers and websites have also listed whichever NCERT is important for prelims. You just buy those NCERTs or download from the website of CBSE and read NCERT first of all. Read NCERT for at least 2 to 3 months. Get yourself into it. Don't try to mug up it. Just strengthen your fundamentals and go for reading the syllabus. And while reading the NCERT itself, daily read the newspaper. So first 4 months should be reading NCERTs, newspaper, and fundamentals and syllabus. After finishing the NCERT in 2 to 3 months, go for standard books, which is prescribed by all the toppers or all the aspirants, all the people who have cleared this examination, and everybody knows. Lakshmikant means polity, like that Gochandian means geography. Go for those books. While starting the standard books, start your optional also. And go side by side. So next another 2 to 3 months should be like preparing for the both. After those 6 to 7 months, start giving mains test series. Whatever you have read, you start writing, because you can't read you can't stay like I will read first of all and then only start my mains answer writing. That won't work, because you can't finish UPSC. You can't finish all the books. So start writing answer writing, mains answer writing in the 7th or 6th or 7th months of the UPSC preparation itself. Before that, start with the prelims test series also after the 3rd or 4th month. So by that way, you will be ready in 8 to 9 months before the prelims. In last 3 months, stop all the mains preparation and go for exclusive prelims preparation. And in those 3 months, go for subject-wise test series. For example, history separately, geography separately, environment separately, polity separately. Then sit for the discussion of these test series papers also, prelims test series paper also. If you are reading online, you are giving your test series online means after writing the test series, download the question analysis paper and see analysis also. Because many of us now just write the test series and come out of the coaching institute or write the test series and see our score and close the browser. No, it won't work. See where you did the mistake and correct the mistake in that paper. So in subject-wise mistake, see where you did the mistake and read that part again and again. So in the last 3 months of prelims, if you do 1 or 1.5 months for subject-wise test series, and the last 1.5 months, you should go for full-length test series in a real-time environment. Means you just don't sit in front of your laptop, go to any coaching academy or anything, just pay for some test series alone, at least for test series alone, full test series, sit in a UPSC-like environment and write morning test series, morning test for GS and evening test for CSAT at least 4 or 5 times, so that UPSC will be just another test series for you.
Thank you, sir, for such a wonderful strategy. Now, as you talked a bit about the writing strategy, I want to ask that what dimension we need to incorporate in order to write an answer in UPSC mains, and what was your strategy for the same?
See, most of the times we do a mistake of writing what we know rather than what they asked for. So we fail to notice the words in the mains: discuss, critically analyze, describe, list out, etc. So these are the words the UPSC used to play. And nowadays, UPSC mains answers are like 3 to 4 lines, where after reading the 2 lines, the UPSC aspirant will lose their hope at all. So you have to practice the previous year questions of mains also answers also, and you need to know if UPSC asking some 4 lines question means what in gist they are asking and what they want us to do, whether they want us to constructively criticize, or they want us to write about advantage or disadvantage, or they want us to analyze the topic. So you have to know about what is the meaning of each and every word, and then you have to take the gist out of the question, and then only you have to write the answer. Every answer should have an introduction, a conclusion, and also a solution. Many a time, because of reading newspapers, we aspirants think like we are a journalist and always go for criticizing the government and leave and conclude the answer. No, when you go for any criticism, you have to give the solution for the criticism also, because you are going to be an officer. So when UPSC is asking an analysis kind of question, when you are writing pros and cons, while you are writing a cons, you have to give the solution for the cons also, and link some current affairs, 1 or 2 current affairs in your mains answer writing, so that they know that you are up to the you are in trend and you know what is happening around you. So this is the way you should write your UPSC mains answer.
Thank you, sir. As you have cleared IAS interview, so you must have followed some tricks and some personality development courses. So, can you just brief us about what personality things we have to incorporate in us in order to crack any interview?
See, when it comes to interview, they are just they are not seeing your answer actually. They are seeing your character, what you are. So when you are telling any answer now, it should be truth. It should be a true, and it should be based on a fact. For example, if they are asking about like for example any jallikattu, don't go for like any emotion at all, emotion. If you want jallikattu, say yes I want jallikattu. When they ask why you want jallikattu, then you justify your answer. Just because I am from Tamil Nadu, I should not be emotional for that answer. No sir, I want jallikattu. Then next question they ask, okay Vijay, why you want jallikattu means, then I have to be able to justify, yes sir, this is a history, we have been practicing this for past 30 years, and we also by this way we are conserving our breeds like native breeds. Thirdly, now because of stricter regulations, the jallikattu is happening in a proper manner without hurting the animals. So even though it is considered as a issue for the animal rights activists, it can be faced in a slow manner, finding an alternative for conserving of the native breeds, which is now being done because of jallikattu. So I gave the justification why I want jallikattu. I didn't go for any emotion, or I didn't mug up anything, or it came from me because I read newspapers and I had my own answers. So this is the quality they need. You say yes, you say no, or you say don't know. That does not matter, but they just want on what basis you said that.
Thank you, sir. It will really help many of our aspirants. Now, many of our fellow mates have various questions regarding the NCRTs, like how to read, how to prepare, does we need to follow a different strategy if we are from arts background and all. It will be really delightful if you could address them.
Yes. Coming to NCRTs, kindly read NCRTs before you buy any book. Okay, from 6th to 12th NCRTs, I have listed what and all NCRTs you have you have to read in my website vijayinjaranam.com, or you go for Munal Patel also. He also did wonderfully listed out what are the NCRTs to read. So you go and buy those NCRTs or download it from any internet sources. So when it comes to NCRT strategy, there is no strategy at all for to read NCRT. You have to read everything because it is a fundamental. Its level is like 6th standard, 7th standard. So you don't need any strategy to finish a book of just 60 to 70 pages. For a people who are like mature like us, who are mature like you and me, who are like 22 age, 23rd age, and preparing for UPSC level exam, reading NCRT will take hardly 1.5 months for you. Even if you go for 2 revision, 3 revision, also it will take hardly take 1.5 months or 2 months. So if you there is no strategy at all, you have to read it fully. That is my opinion. Don't take notes from NCERT. It is not at all needed. It is like taking notes for ABCD. No one takes notes for ABCD because everyone knows ABCD. It's a fundamental. Likewise, NCERT is also like that. If you read 3 to 4 times, that fundamental will be in you. It will dissolve in you. You no need to take notes at all. Even after 3 years, any question they ask, you can link with NCERT fundamentals and you can write the examination. For example, in the second attempt, I went till interview and came back. I was waiting for the good result, but I didn't sail through. When the result came, there was just 15 days away for next prelims. So within the 15 days, I have to cover entire prelims portion. So I just read 1 week static portion and 1 week current affair revision and went to the examination. But what helped me there was my NCERT, which I read 3 to 4 times when I prepared 3 years before. Because my fundamentals were very strong, I did a good guess of any questions they asked. I made very intelligent guesses, and within 15 days of preparation, I scored again with 127 marks in my third attempt. So at that time, no static book or no current affairs or no monthly magazine, nothing helped. The only fundamentals that I have read through NCERTs helped me at that stage.
Thank you so much, sir, for clearing the very first step of UPSC preparation to all our aspirants. Now, as I had already said, that the UPSC syllabus is so extended, and especially the prelims one. So, how can anyone remember the specific facts for prelims, like name of satellites, the years, and all that? What was your strategy for that?
See, I didn't follow any strategy to remember anything specifically because I did lot of revisions. I did lot of revisions of my static portions also. I did, for example, for polity book, I have read at least 11 to 12 times fully before my second attempt. So if you revise again and again, you don't need to remember anything specifically. It will automatically come to you. Second thing is like lot of test series. Because of lot of test series and the mistakes I made there, it will automatically will sit in your mind. Okay, that day I did a mistake in that. This question somewhere had been asked in some of my test series. So by that way, it will sit in your mind. Thirdly, I made my own current affairs notes. I read my own newspaper. Because of that, since I read and I typed online or copy pasted somewhere from Wikipedia, etc. So since I made my own, I don't want to. I didn't had the need to mug up it separately because all the things that I did was of my own and I did on my own. So if you read someone's compilation, you need to mug up again and again. But when you make it on your own, you don't need to mug up at all.
Okay, sir, thank you for such a beautiful piece of advice. Now, as you are yourself an IFS officer, so there must be some myths about your service. So, what are these myths and how will you clarify them to our aspirants?
Thank you for asking this question. So many myths around there. First of all, it is not IFOS. It is IFS. We are Indian Forest Service, and IFO is just used for removing the confusion with foreign service. But our designation is IFS, Indian Forest Service. Second thing is like we don't stay inside forest. Our bungalows are in civil lines along with collector, SP, district judge in the district headquarters only. So we are the district level officers. Our works are inside forest. In the same way, a collector goes to a school to see what is happening. We will go to the forest, the what works are going in the forest, and we will camp there 1 or 2 days, and we will come back to our district headquarters. So our family stay in the district headquarters only. Our office is in district only, and our work is mostly of meeting and giving orders and implementation and inspection only. We used to go to the field, and for people who are very much interested in the field, spend more time on the field because a lot of opportunities available to go to field and you stay in the field also. There are a lot of opportunities available to spend more time in the field in forest service. So this first myth is we don't stay inside forest. Our home is in district headquarters only, and when we want, we will go and do inspection and stay and come back. Secondly, we are not uniformed. Till ranger level, 3-star level, our staffs are uniformed. Thirdly, plantation is not our only job. It is just 1% of our job. We have so many other jobs, as I already listed before. Fourth, there is a myth that it's not suitable for women. No, you are wrong. Currently, the head of forest force in Himachal, the head of forest force in Telangana, the both are lady officers, and there are so many lady officers, IFS officers who are doing wonderful job, like Sudha Raman IFS from Tamil Nadu, who got Kalam Innovation Award, Prani Mitra Award, etc. So many awards she have got, and there are so many lady IFS officers who are doing a wonderful job and who love the field jobs, and they are called as green queens in Twitter. They have their own Twitter page also. So if you want to know about how the women fraternity, IFS fraternity is doing well in forest service, you can follow their Twitter tab. And when it comes to salaries and perks, IAS, IPS, IFS are all having salary, same kind of salary, same kind of perks, and same kind of privileges. So just because we don't know much about the service, this kind of myth exists.
Thank you, sir. Your words will surely clear all the rumors that all the aspirants had. Now, as you are such a great scorer in prelims, so can you guide our aspirants about the last 3 to 4 months strategies for prelim?
Yeah, actually, I think I have already explained it. If you have 4 months in your hand, you have to spend the 2 months in going for subject-wise test series. Take 5 subjects: geography, history, polity, environment, and I forgot one subject. Sorry. So these 5 subjects you have to take, and you have to go for subject-wise test series and see in any part you are scoring less or you are scoring very weak marks, and revise those subjects and give test series again in those subjects. So after those 2 months, you go for full-length test series, including CSAT and also the static portion. In the last 1 month, you revise those things that you are weak in. For example, in history, I am generally weak in 1912 to 1947. There are too many conventions Mahatma Gandhiji had attended. There are so many packs Mahatma Gandhiji had attended. So I could not recall those. Then that part of history alone. Rest I'm fine with. So in the last 1 month, I took history and revised those part which I'm weak in. I didn't go for entire revision because it was not needed. If you go for entire revision again and again, it will take more time. So take the part which you are weak in and revise that part again and again. And last month, allocate more time for current affairs, because other static books you have spent so much of time in revising, but when it comes to current affairs, you have spent just 1 or 2 revision. So revise current affairs more in the last month, because when more current affairs comes in prelims, you will forget many things. So spend more time for current affairs in the last month.
Thank you so much for answering our questions, sir. Now over to you, Muskan.
Thank you. And now I would request our society president, Mr. Amit, to present the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Muskan. On behalf of Bunyad and all the participants that have joined us for this session through different platforms, I extend my deepest sense of gratitude to you, sir, for sparing your precious time with us. Undoubtedly, your ideas, your strategies, your tricks that you suggested would definitely help all the aspirants of civil services as well as forest services. And though this service is forest service is relatively less talked about in comparison to civil services, but your address certainly helped remove some of the myths and make us realize the true significance and nature of this examination. So thanks a lot for this, sir. And I would like to thank all the participants who joined us for this session and listened so carefully and patiently. And also I would like to thank Hindu College, who has provided this platform to us for conducting such insightful sessions. So thanks a lot, sir. Thanks.
Thank you, Amit. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, sir.
Thank you, Bhumika, and thank you, Muskan. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, everyone, for patiently hearing my words. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.